oftentimes those simple questions get you all that information that we're looking for.
And then how do we make sure that the way we're communicating is, platform specific, media specific, and really gets to people where they live, where they consume.
And so what we're helping them do is elevate the conversation to what a CMO would typically be saying and what success metrics that they would be kind of creating.
Sure. There's a lot there, and I do think the way I like to talk about it is it's really, you come our way with a roadmap. Today we want to talk about B2B marketing planning, specifically how to help marketers, B2B marketers, make a bigger impact with the budgets and the work that they're doing. A lot of companies really find themselves kind of in a grind, doing the same stuff over and over, wanting to elevate and make a bigger impact with marketing, but not really exactly sure, how to move forward in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely, especially in B2B. Often the first conversations that we're having with people in our kickoff meeting is, what does success look like? What are some of the hurdles to overcome that? And what we want to hear in those, what does success look like, are some of the metrics that go with that. And so those metrics can be anything from business objectives, marketing objectives.
How does a marketer find their way to those metrics most effectively? I mean, there's so many different things that can impact a business. I know as part of our process, we typically, after we have an initial sort of briefing period, we do a multidisciplinary input session, we call it, where we're bringing together people from across teams at the company.
Yeah, and it's great timing, David. We're actually running one of those today with our industrial technology and kind of software client. And within B2B, there's many, many different perspectives and people that we want to bring to the table. So it's not about us just having a conversation with marketing and asking what those marketing success metrics are. What we find really, really successful is making sure that we're absolutely getting the sales team there. We're getting the marketing team. We're getting the subject matter experts or the engineers, anybody who is involved in the process. And often it's as simple as asking them, what does success look like for you? And making sure that you're going around and hearing everybody's perspective. And it's a great way of getting internal alignment.
We work with so many different kinds of B2B clients, and really every client is in a different situation. So it's not like, okay, what are the success metrics that everyone should have?
Right.
But it's also helping clients sort of assess the situation that they're in and align to the things that are going to make a difference, kind of based on where they are. One of the things that we typically look at is the C-suite vision.
If you understand what the hot spots are for the C-suite and just make sure all of the work you're doing from a marketing perspective includes that input and perspective. And so that really the tactics that you end up doing at the ground level have a direct relationship to how are we moving the needle, so that when we present the success of these programs, that they not only build good benchmark data for external engagement and audience and reach and all of that, but that they also, connect to the things that are most important with the internal dialogue and the things that the C-suite is really looking to move the needle on. The other thing that I would add to that is sometimes, what's happening at the C-suite is at a global level, and where we're working is at a local level. So, getting that alignment and looking to sort of satisfy success metrics at both levels is really what that sort of big planning is all about.
And an important part of this is, if you're doing something, it's that question, why? What's the reason you're doing this? What is this ladder up to?
Yeah, and oftentimes it's so easy to start at that lower funnel of those KPIs, and we, again, try to elevate them up. How does that ladder into your marketing and communication objectives? And then ultimately, what are those business objectives? What are we trying to achieve from that high level? So really kind of defining each of those, because they're all interconnected.
I think one of the reasons we have sort of an articulated 8-step planning process is not because it's ever the same every time in terms of the outcomes, but because having a sort of a path that you can walk down, you make sure that you find what the gaps are. You see where they already have good information, you figure out where you need to get more, and it just really helps move things along quickly, because we know marketers today don't have a lot of time to pause and figure things out. There's a lot of pressure to perform.
And I think when you hear 8 steps, people might be, oh my gosh, that's going to take me forever, right? It's not. It's about being nimble, but it's about making sure that we're checking off and evaluating each of those to ensure that we have the right information.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think the very common scenario is that you've got sort of the brand objectives that are really important at the C-suite. We've got to get the company and the customers to know us for this. And then at the grassroots level, you've got to drive leads, right? And it's all the stuff in between that, becomes part of that discovery that you really have to understand to do it right. And then, beyond that lead, you mentioned, dealers, we worked over the years with, lots of different industries, whether it's agriculture or RVs or, industrial machinery that flow through distribution, and, the brand loses sight of what happens to the lead. So, really building benchmarks to say, okay, where does our data stream end? And then how do we close the gap on that ultimate sale? So that, from the lead to the handoff to the C-suite, you've got some alignment there.
The other piece that can be so valuable, whether it's a distributor or an internal sales team, is they're in the trenches. Like they know why we're winning business and why other deals are falling through. So there are often insights there that marketing doesn't have that direct access to, that if you involve them in the process, it can really shape, kind of the messaging.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, what we find is that the input that you get from sales is very different than the input that you get from engineering. And they're both extremely important to sort of connect the dots and make sure that that ladders up to the things that really drive, business impact, brand impact, and sales impact.
So any other specific examples where we've seen this sort of big planning process bring out some interesting or unexpected KPIs or metrics?
So I think that the some of the work that you guys have done with the brand trackers for global accounting, insurance, and finance business professional services was really about trying to understand how to elevate a brand's awareness within a market and finding sort of the white space among the competitive set to say, where do we have the ability to stand out? And I think that those are some of the sort of less hard metrics that can have a huge impact on long-term success for a brand, if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, absolutely. We worked on some global financial and insurance brands that globally, they were in certain countries where they're headquartered, they're really, really well known. Whereas in the US, we were at a completely different situation. For them, it was all about awareness and brand perception, finding out where can we play in a very competitive market in the US where we're not known to have that kind of leadership and expertise. So there we were partnering with our client in the US to set up a brand tracker so that we could get into those awareness, perception, and really here start to position the brand in a different way to where it was headquartered, but also playing with global and kind of feeding into some of their key pillars.
Yeah, I was going to say that from a global perspective, oftentimes they're leaders. And then when they bring that brand to the US, we're set up as a challenger brand. We're not as well known, we don't have that awareness, or we might be trying to shift a negative perception within North America or the US. So that is really different success metric than what global is.
So we talked about the process a little bit. We won't bore everyone with all the details of the process in the conversation.
We won't go into the 8 steps.
But what if somebody kind of goes through that process, what is the typical output? What is the deliverable? What are the deliverables from the process?
I think that it's important to look at that and say, okay, we know people have to get some quick wins. So what are the things that we can identify that can show, progress and momentum and quick wins so that the work that does take more time to develop builds momentum and understanding across the organization.
Important enough that it's actually one of the outputs is our quick win plan, so that we know marketers, are under pressure to show performance always. And so if we're going to go through the process and take the time and do this and implement, what are the things that we know we can get done and show impact on right away? You mentioned asking the right questions, and I think that's a huge part of the effectiveness of sort of our process and the team really, is that we've been doing this kind of B2B we've been doing this kind of B2B work for decades now, and you really do start to learn what are the right important questions and how to dig more effectively and quickly.
And I'd say we're a full service agency, so yes, the client's got a multidisciplinary team, and I'm just thinking of our kind of meeting this afternoon, but we have strategy, we have creatives, we have account, we have media, we have everybody also in that original meeting where they're all asking their kind of expert questions along the way as well.
The other thing that we had talked about along the way is this idea that in B2B, people come to marketing through such different paths, that they have different sort of experience and sort of even understanding of how to approach it.
Yeah, I think having come from, worked on both B2C and B2B, I think B2B is a very specific way of working that we have processes for, because often those success metrics at the beginning are so important, because often we don't have that champion like you do in B2C. There might not be a CMO. You might be working with marketers who have been engineers, or we're working with for the same client, multiple marketers that might be a little bit more siloed. And so what we're helping them do is elevate the conversation to what a CMO would typically be saying and what success metrics that they would be kind of creating.
And I think that's honestly the wonderful challenge of B2B and finding a way to do great work, is that you have different challenges. They're often more complex products, more complex marketplaces, and you don't have the luxury of the budgets of the large consumer brands. So it's a fun puzzle to put together, and getting all of those stakeholders involved is the way to really getting great work.
It's fun to help achieve those successes and champion them. I mean, that's ultimately why we're in this business, is to help our clients be successful and continue to grow their marketing efforts.
Yeah, I mean, often the marketing teams in B2B organizations have really important audiences laterally and up. So doing our work in a way and helping to arm them with the information that gets the organizational understanding and appreciation for sort of the good work that they do is a key part of making the whole program successful.
Yeah, and I'd say that's the passion that we have, is that we can see that we are making a big impact from that by being their kind of truly their marketing partners and helping fill in some of those gaps that you see within B2B.
I mean, we're easily excited on this topic, and it's really rewarding to see those organizations get excited about the success as well.
Yeah.
Well, great stuff, you guys. Thanks for the time and the input. Really love hearing the passion, about helping marketers make a big impact with their budgets and with their plans. So, thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.